Thanks for everybody for coming to my workshop today. This workshop is about how can portfolio assessment enhance early years development, parental involvement, and teacher instruction in elementary school classrooms, presented by Cathy1. Some of it is, it says early years, but it applies to junior and intermediate classes as well. So it can go beyond kindergarten. I don't think that's what I wanted it to be. Where did it go? We went right to the end. We're going to fast forward to the front. There we go. Goals of this workshop. One of the goals is to share my knowledge, learning, and experience of using portfolios with early childhood educators or educators in general. To relate the use of portfolios to Ontario early years documents and all documents, because it's not an add-on thing. It's not something extra to do. It's in the assessment documents. It's in the curriculum documents. So it's all part of what we do anyways. To share my experience of implementing the portfolios in my classroom, we did them in JK this year, and we did them differently than I've done in the past. So we'll talk about that in a bit. To inform educational practice by giving you, the participants, some new ideas and thinking around portfolios as assessment tools. As I used them this year, my thinking changed around what their purpose is and how useful they are. So I hope to share that with you. I'm going to share some of the academic writing and research regarding using portfolios as assessment in the early years. There's tons and tons of research. I didn't even realize till I started to explore portfolios and look. There's so much research on using portfolios. There's so many papers all over the place about them. We're going to look at some of the artifacts from my class portfolios and practice inquiry-based learning by discussing the data in the portfolios. And today I'm advocating for the use of portfolios in the early years classroom and throughout the school to assess children's progress, engage parents in their children's progress, and to inform instruction in the classroom. So what is a student portfolio? A portfolio is a purposeful collection of student work that exhibits the student's efforts, progress, and achievements in one or more areas. So you can choose what you put in your portfolio. One of the key things of the way I use them this year is having the children involved in developing them. Description of an educational portfolio. There's lots of descriptions in all the different writings and research, but this is just a couple. Collections of artifacts that celebrate the child. A systematic collection of one's work. Contemporary research describes portfolios as authentic, collaborative, ongoing, multidimensional, evaluable tools in which reflection on the artifacts is central. So not just putting things in the portfolios, but looking at them and reflecting on what they mean for the child, what progress they show. Collections of children's work over time and can include photographs, artwork, writing samples, transcripts of children's thoughts, teachers' observations, and any other artifacts that help demonstrate and assess children's learning. Advantages of using portfolio assessment: giving children input into their learning and assessment, engaging parents in conversations with their children and the educators about the child's learning. I had parents come in to parent interviews and the kids to come in, and they looked at them together. Providing a visual tool for demonstrating learning, and fostering metacognition, which research shows is really, really important. The opportunities portfolio assessment provides for children to engage in self-assessment are exactly the kinds of experiences that have been found to support the development of metacognition, an aspect of cognition recognized as critical for learning. Kids talking about their thinking, talking about why they chose artifacts for their books, for the portfolios is really, really good. Having them look at it and think about and talk about their thinking. Some more advantages are allowing children to move at their own pace and see their own learning. Giving children a voice and power over the assessment and development by having the children select artifacts for the portfolio. Encouraging reflection from the child, the educators, and the parents. They provide concrete artifacts to share and discuss with parents at conferences. And one quote is, "As the children took on the roles of teacher, learner, and questioner, their confidence grew, and they assumed control over an important aspect of their learning and development." That's a really important thing that we saw that happen with the JKs throughout the years, their confidence growing. Sharing portfolios provides students with expanded language for talking about their learning. How do portfolios align with current early childhood education practices and Ontario educational documents? There are lots and lots of documents about early learning and of course, lots of documents within the Ministry of Education, but the Early Learning for Every Child today highlights portfolios as important in building understanding of child development, having the flexibility to read and reread them. They document learning over time. They engage adults in the progress for the child. They showcase children's learning and their assessment of children's best work. How do portfolios fit in with the interior curriculum documents? For the full-day early learning kindergarten program, this is a description of assessment in the early learning document. It says, assessment refers to gathering and interpretation of information over time to observable as evidence of what a child can do, say, and apply. The primary purpose of assessment is to improve children's learning. The early learning kindergarten team members analyze and interpret the evidence they have collected. They are able to assess children's developmental progress and design future contexts for learning that are appropriate to each child's observed strengths, needs, and interests. So I have given you that statement in front of you. I would like you to take a highlighter and highlight the words that make it applicable to portfolios. What things in that definition tell you that portfolios are appropriate for the classroom? I see lots of highlighting. As I looked at that with that definition, and I looked at it critically to see how do portfolios apply in the classroom, and what are some of the words you found?
Assessment.
Anybody else?
Observable evidence of what a child can do.
Yeah.
Say and apply. Say and apply.
Say and apply. Yeah. Any other ones?
Over time.
Over time. Yeah.
Analyze and interpret.
Analyze, interpret. Yeah. All important words.
Improve children's learning.
Improve their learning.
Child's strengths, needs, and interests.
Perfect. That matches with the report cards too, doesn't it? We need their strengths, we need their needs. And it's good to put their interests for parents too. So portfolios, we can go look at them, we can find those things. Thank you.
Demonstrates developmental progress.
Sorry?
The developmental progress.
Developmental progress, yeah. Any other ones?
I like that because it talks about designing future context. So it's like, what does that child need to move forward, right? So.
Right, right. And I'll tell you a really funny story. It could be a little bit embarrassing, I guess, but it was an eye-opener for me. We were doing some things for our portfolio. Some things I choose and some things children choose, depending what you want to see in your portfolio and what you need. And one of the kids, we were looking at alphabet recognition. And we did them, and I said, that's awesome, you know all your letters. And she looked at me and she said, you haven't taught me anything I don't know already. And I thought, first I was like, oh, that's not good, because she's doing something she already knows. But it was good, because we saw, looking at the portfolio, you've already done this, yeah. You need to be challenged, you need to do some other things. So it was good, it was a good eye-opener, but it was like a little bit sad at first. Another document that we looked at last year at school was Growing Success Document, Assessment, Evaluation, and Reporting in Ontario Schools. This is another example where you can find lots of words that apply to portfolios. The 7 fundamental principles in the document are to ensure that assessment, evaluation, and reporting are valid and reliable, and that lead to improvement of learning for all students. Teachers use practices and procedures that are fair, transparent, and equitable for all students. I liked how it said equitable, because even a child with special needs can have a portfolio and can show their progress through photographs or through videos if you have a e-portfolio. So I like that they're equitable. They support all students, including those with special education needs, those who are learning the language of instruction, English or French, and those who are First Nation, Métis, or Inuit. They are carefully planned to relate to the curriculum expectations and learning goals as much as possible, to the interests, learning styles, and preferences, needs, and experiences of all students. They are communicated clearly to students and parents at the beginning of the school year. So when you involve the children from the beginning of the school year and you send a note to tell parents about it, they're aware of it. You could have them come in. We came for play and stay days, so once a month I invite the parents to come and stay for a portion of the day. The kids would get their portfolios out and share them with their parents. And they're so proud to show them. They're ongoing, which is important, varied in nature, and administered over a period of time to provide multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate the full range of their learning. They provide ongoing descriptive feedback that's clear, specific, meaningful, and timely to support improved learning and achievement. They develop students' self-assessment skills to enable them to assess their own learning. They set specific goals and plan next steps for their learning. So you can do that. All those things you can do within a portfolio. You can meet all of those principles of their growing success document. And we all want success for our kids, so it's a good place to start. This is a little bit of the research. As I mentioned before, there's tons and tons of research about portfolios and academic papers. So just a few examples. The use of portfolio assessment with preschoolers benefits both society and the students because students are taught at a young age how to think critically, which improves their logic and problem-solving abilities and reduces the risk of academic failure as they proceed through elementary and high school. That's a pretty big statement, that it can help them all through their school career. And these are my observations. Children develop self-confidence and self-evaluation skills through compiling and discussing their portfolios. For example, I explain to the children why I think a piece of their work is good, and then they choose an artifact for their portfolio. I ask them to tell me why they think it's a good choice. This type of conversation helps children develop metacognition and self-assessment skills. And sometimes I don't agree that it should go in a portfolio, but it's their choice, and I let them put it in there anyways, because it's important that they feel ownership and that they feel it is their choice. Children's ideas, approach to life, choice, and relationships are viewed as of interest in their own right. Portfolios help children have a voice in their learning and progress. One of the big things I've learned throughout the whole master's program is to start listening to kids more. And not just listening to their words, but listening to their actions, watching them. And I thought about that and I thought, like I do my grandson, because he's little and can't talk to me, I watch him. And I watch him and I see what he does, and he communicates me this whole way that's not a verbal way. And I look for those cues and signs and I follow them with him. And so I try to do that more in my classroom. And I know that's not always possible in a classroom. That's reality, right? But more times than not, I'll listen to them and I'll watch them and I'll wait until they're ready to do something. And not say, no, you do it now. I say, oh, can I finish this, Miss Brandt? Sure. Come over when you're finished. So just those types of little things, starting to listen more to their verbal cues and to their body language, because you sure can tell by someone's body language if what kind of mood they're in or kind of what they're thinking. So I learned to do that a lot more this year. Documentation, often referred to as visible listening, is part of a larger process for giving the child a sense of place. Oh, I said that already. Portfolios provide opportunities for children to consider progress for themselves, their peers, their parents, and educators they are involved with. The children, they like sharing with their peers too. Sometimes that's quiet reading time, they'll get their portfolio and look at it together. And they'll say, hey, I have that in mind. Hey, I don't have that in mind, because everyone is different. So for example, when I had parent conferences, I asked for the children to be in attendance and to look through their portfolio with their parents. The children demonstrated confidence and pride as they looked at the work with their parents. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of portfolios at each table, and I have the second page as a handout to do a little bit of work. So, in a group of 2 or 3 or whatever, choose a portfolio to analyze. Use the handout as a guide. Write down your ideas that describe evidence of learning from the data in the portfolios. I'll give you 10 to 12 minutes because we don't want to take too long to analyze the data. You can do it as a group or divide the tasks up. And please choose one person to discuss your findings with the group.
Is Cathy writing this?
This is the one that was the answer. She gets her answer.
But maybe it says be careful. Actually, it says
The steps.
Which way I found it usable more? Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds.
Wow.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for all your conversations and your discussion. Does anyone want to offer what they noticed in the portfolios? Right here?
Just offer up one.
Okay.
We noticed that she was printing her letters the right way, then suddenly she started going backwards. Then we saw she was writing them frontwards again,
Again.
lowercase.
So you
Yeah.
saw their progress,
Yeah,
her progress.
yeah, it scared us when she started going backwards, but then she cleaned it up.
Right.
It looks a lot nicer.
Good.
We also noticed that she found it much easier to recognize uppercase letters. Her progress was much faster with uppercase as opposed to recognizing her lowercase.
Good, thank you. The back, any comments back there?
First was, you could see the growth in fine motor skills. She had much more control of where she was putting her pencil, and then even she got to write her name with a marker, you could even see that she had far more control ongoing.
Through it.
Yeah.
Anything else? So, this group over here, do you have any comments?
Question number 1?
Any question, doesn't matter.
Most of what was happening, you begin to see as he started out, that first of all the letters were very big, but some reversals, and as going through you could see also the meeting of the standard when you go to the checklists.
Right.
You could see the observable meeting of standard or exceeding for whatever. the
And quickly,
component.
right? Easy
Yes,
to
very,
see.
very quickly. And the habitat, we took out the words and looked at it and didn't think very much of it in terms of what we're seeing, but understanding that this was something that came out of a context,
Right.
and that we're looking at that he was able to replicate a habitat utilizing trees and those kinds of things. So it shows a bit of metacognition in terms of how he's using the information. However, he created it and put it together in a very constructive way, and it showed a real level of creativity as you see he's coloring all outside the line, and then it moves through, and how he's mixing colors and making things much more artistic.
Right. Thinking different ways about what he's doing and making it different now.
Yeah.
Anything else anyone wants to say before we move on?
Well, I was just thinking about something, we were looking at them spelling their name, and we were talking about the order, and I was thinking about if I was a teacher at that time, I might have them scramble up some magnetic letters and see if they could put their name in the proper order, like recognize the letters enough to, because they were struggling with that, and to just put it on a little magnetic board, kind of only put those letters that are in their name, and just kind of go the next, see where
what
they go
happens
with
there.
that,
Yeah.
and see if they understand that order makes a difference. And
Yeah, and as I look through them, I realize, I could have done this and I could have done that, and you realize more things that you want to do and things that I would do differently next time, some things I would do the same, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, it's just interesting when you start to look through them and go, I could have got that. I kind of, like what you're talking about, we had done that actually on the board when they didn't know the names, but I could have documented it with a big camera. I could have taken a picture of that, and I could have put a note on there and said, she can't put them back in the order. She can put them back in the proper order when they're mixed up or whatever, right? I didn't do that, but
We also noticed that when she was, when you asked, what do you know about letters, all she wrote down were uppercase letters, but she didn't do her uppercase letters in the names. She just did a couple letters, but although she can spell her name, she doesn't recognize her name as having letters. So the question is, what do you know about letters? I would have thought everybody would put down their name if they did.
it was interesting. Not one child wrote their name when we asked that question. What do you know about letters and where do you find letters? Not one child. I thought every child would write their name, if they could write their name at that time. I thought they would, or their first letter or something. They didn't. It was something I assumed that they knew, that they related to letters, but they didn't. So that was good learning for me, right? It was for myself and Miss Snyder. We're like, wow, they didn't even know that their name is made of letters, right? It's just, that's my name. So then we talked about that. What's your name made of? Because they didn't have that
Yeah, they've
concept.
probably seen it as a solid chunk that you can't take apart.
I think so, but I didn't realize that before, right?
But
Until
that's
we
their
did
name,
that.
it's not letters, that's the way
Yeah.
they're thinking of it.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
That's my name.
It's
Not
interesting.
realizing that their name is made
Of letters, yeah.
I noticed with the pictures too, they would like you to take the picture of their work and stuff. And it was nice to see how much pride they actually had in being able to present their work to us. And, you know, you can see that, you know, the child is just beaming because, you know, look at what I did. Like, they're just so excited, you know, to show that.
Yeah.
And to have it documented, like they wanted a picture of it. And they do that through their play as well. When they've built something very, like a structure on the carpet or whatever and stuff, and they want you to take a picture of it. That's like awesome. And then they're okay with them, with other kids, when it's time to put it away, because they know that it's on a board.
So I have
Safe.
forward, Mrs. Brown,
Yeah.
I have to get to the
So
garage
it's very,
before they
that
come.
is very
You
important.
want to listen to
you know, for them.
Thank you. So we're gonna move on. I'm glad you enjoyed looking at those and shared your thoughts. Thank you. This is a little video of my journey using portfolios in junior kindergarten. For example, I'm more conscious of the fact that the children need to learn how to look at the portfolios and choose their work. During parent conferences, I had the children share their portfolios with their parents. At this time, I realized that I need to coach the parents to look for the progress their child's making. My journal. I kept a reflective journal about the implementation of portfolios in my classroom. Using the journals helped me to be reflective in my implementation of portfolios and my teaching overall. Through my experience, I've developed more communication with parents, helped the children begin to develop self-assessment skills, and I've seen the confidence the children demonstrate when showing their portfolios to their parents. Also, as the school year progressed, I observed the children taking more ownership of their portfolios by asking to put artifacts in them. Process. What did we do? I sent a note to parents asking them to send in a binder and 10 plastic sheet covers. We had the children draw a picture of themselves on a piece of self-adhesive paper and stuck it to the front of the binder. We also put the children's name on the spine of the binder by letting them pick out stickers, letters to spell their names. The process of having the children bringing their own binders and making their portfolios helped them take ownership of the portfolios right away. We allocated a special shelf for the portfolios and had the children put them on the shelf. We also taught the children the term portfolio and explained that it's a special book to put their best work in. Some of the children couldn't even say the word portfolio, but as we progressed, they could. I also explained that we could put some work in their portfolio and they could add some work whenever they thought it was their good work or something special they wanted to save. Both myself, the children, and my assistant add artifacts to the portfolios. Some samples I included were writing samples, checklists, photographs, worksheets, and mini assessment sheets. There are a number of opinions about what's appropriate for the contents of the portfolio, but in my opinion, you include what shows progress and growth of the child, and you involve the children in some of the decision making. You also have to consider the purpose of the portfolios to help you determine what the content will be. Some people might keep a portfolio just for language, some people might keep it for math. I did a combination. I had math and language and some personal social skills and some science. These are some examples of the artifacts in the portfolio. On the left you see one student writing when they were playing. In the middle, little girl, she's counting on her 100 chart. On the top right, there's writing samples the kids were making lists in the journal center. And on the bottom left, there's an example of a child copying letters in their writing journal. And it's a simple ABC checklist. And the bottom right is a worksheet that one of the children asked to put in their portfolio. Implementation. Here's a picture of children adding stuff to their portfolio. With the sheet protectors, it helps them to be able to be independent. No gluing. Tape it's a lot faster. My intention was to have every Friday be portfolio day. As the year progressed and time is so limited, that doesn't always happen. I felt that if I made portfolios a part of the routine, they would be more useful. Instead, we decided to go with the needs of the children and our need to add specific pieces of information at different times. I encourage the children to show their portfolios to their parents on our play and stay days, when parents are invited to come to school with their child. The children seem to enjoy showing their parents, and the parents look through the portfolios and comment on different things. Aha moments. As I showed my principal some of the portfolios, I had an aha moment when I realized that children and parents may not see their progress automatically, and that I may need to guide them to show them where they can see improvement. I also decided I should include self-assessment pieces to the portfolios so that the children learn more about assessing their own work, and parents and educators can talk to the children about their thinking and their choices. The third one, this may seem obvious, but as I looked through the portfolios for this workshop, I realized that one of the great aspects of portfolios and having children be a part of the process is that each portfolio has unique contents. I think this is amazing and very important because each child is unique and we need to capture their individuality and support it. By having the children select some of the artifacts, we develop a portfolio that's unique to them. Quote from the children. A little girl was adding something to her portfolio and she said, "I love this book because it's special." Another girl said a girl was putting a paper in her portfolio and she saw a letter that she wrote for me. She insisted I take the letter home. Also, when looking at her work from September, she stopped at one picture and said, "Who did this?" I said, "You did." She replied, "Well, I was nervous, you know. It was the first day of school." To me, this quote demonstrates that she's self-assessing her work even at the age of 4. The early childhood educator's perspective. I interviewed my ECE in my classroom and I asked, "What did you think of our implementation of portfolios in junior kindergarten this year?" Quote, "I thought they were really good because they were engaging for the children and they really enjoyed taking ownership of their portfolio. The children got very excited about putting their work in their portfolios. By having this ownership, it opened up a doorway of sharing with other people, such as peers, educators. They gave them independence and confidence in what they were doing." I also asked, "Do you feel that the effort required to maintain them is worth it?" Quote, "Yes, I do. We have done portfolios in a different way before, and we had to rush at the end to get to add the artifacts. When the children helped add the materials, it was more engaging for them. It was rewarding to see children engaged in the process and they were choosing what they want to share and keep. It was a very exciting process for them and less work for educators in June. It takes the stress out of putting them together at the end, and it created conversation between the students and the educators. That in itself is priceless. They serve as an educational tool all year, and then it's a keepsake as well." Leslie Snyder, 2015. Would I use portfolios again? Absolutely. I intend to have portfolios in my classroom every year. I saw many benefits to implementing them as more than a collection of artifacts and using them as an assessment tool as well. The following benefits include documenting children's learning, conferencing with children and parents about their child's learning, informing instruction and curriculum decisions, referring to them at report card times. They develop metacognition skills in children by having children explain their thinking as they look at the artifacts in their portfolio. Using a portfolio as a formative assessment because they're ongoing throughout the year, and teaching self-assessment skills to children. What would I do differently? I would do more baseline tasks to put up in the portfolio. For example, a sample of number writing or counting right in September. I would also put a list of goals for kindergarten inside the front cover of the portfolio so everyone has a clear vision of where we're headed for the year. I would include more photographs of children involved in inquiry-based tasks and personal social skills. I would include some self-assessment pieces in the portfolio. Are portfolios worth the time and effort they require? There were times when I wondered if the effort the portfolios take to keep current was worth it, but as I see the many benefits for the portfolio, I'm convinced they're worth it, and if you involve the children, the parents, and implement the portfolios in the program, and then they become more of a group effort than having the teacher do all the work. Final thoughts. The information gained from both the portfolios and the process of using them can benefit our students, their parents, and us as educators. As quoted in McGurky and Albin, the information gained can still be very influential in furthering our understanding of an issue and improving practice. Over this past year, I've learned that the information we gain by using portfolios with children, parents, and curriculum in mind, we can change our practice for the better. So, the final thoughts. The assembly of the data is not the end of the process, but forms the beginning of reflective interaction in which children, practitioners, parents, and researchers can engage to interpret it and negotiate meaning. Portfolios are a way to collect data and interact with all of the stakeholders. I found my experience of using portfolios with children to be very valuable. And before this, I didn't really think of portfolios as data, but they are data, tons of data about kids. Opportunities portfolio assessment provide for children to engage in self-assessment are exactly the kinds of experience that have been found to support the early development of metacognition recognized as critical for learning. My kindergarten students began to look at the work in the portfolios and the pieces they wanted to add in a more critical way. I think this is significant to recognize that 4- and 5-year-olds can look at their work and begin to assess it for themselves. I didn't have to say to them. I say, but sometimes I say to them, look at it. Look at your work. Which one do you think is better now? What do you think? And they could show me. They're starting, oh yeah, this one. I colored in the lines, or I can make my name now. So they were starting to learn those things about themselves and that they could decide what is good work. I mean, sometimes they still put work in. It's not their best work. I know it's not, but that's okay because it's their choice and they really like that piece of work, so they want to put it in there, and that's fine. But I just found overall it was really, really valuable, and I definitely am going to do it again. And in this way, where kids are involved and parents are involved, and we're building it together. Because I used to do these ones, and there's nothing, like they're beautiful. They're mementos for parents. I have one for my kids, my special workbook. But that's all they were, was collections of work. The kids didn't do it. In my class, they didn't. I pasted it all in for them, and it was in June. Like Ms. Snyder said, we were madly putting the rest in, adding, finishing it up. It meant nothing to the kids. They didn't do any of it. And now it has meaning for them. And they're like, can we take it home yet? Can we take it home yet? And I say, not yet, not until school is done. Okay.
And you collected all the same pieces. Right?
Yeah, we still collected the same sorts of things.
So it
but
wasn't unique to those kids back then.
not then. No, they all we put everybody's coloring sheet in, and we put everybody's same math sheet in, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't show the individuality of kids. And doing it this way, it shows every single, if you won't find this one binder that's the same. You won't find one portfolio because it's individual to them, and they helped build it, and they helped choose it. And I think that's really, really important. And it's important for their parents, too, right? Because oh yeah, my child's a special person and considered a special person, because it's not the same as everyone else, which I think is important. So thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope you found it valuable. And please fill out your evaluation form before you leave. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.